Webinars are really hard to get right. There's a ton of marketing that has to happen before you actually get to the webinar. In my own opinion, from having attended a lot of these and helping businesses set them up, that's really where the money's made. It's all in the preparation of how we're going to send up the follow-up emails, making it easy to log in and actually join, creating a bunch of FOMO for them to make sure they do join. And then when you're there, having obviously a talk track, a good handoff to your sales team for the people that did say they're interested in the product or service afterwards really makes a huge difference. So there's a lot here we want to automate and have set up so that your marketing team doesn't feel like they're scrambling every single time that you're trying to set these up. Or in other words, so that they don't feel like every single time that you have to do a webinar, they have to come up with reinventing the wheel and how are we going to run this one and what do we have to do on our marketing efforts. We just want all that stuff to just work seamlessly. Okay. So this system in front of us, it's going to show us how a business will automatically invite, remind, and follow up with people around a webinar. So no interested leads are forgotten and more attendees turn into sales opportunities for your business. Okay. I'm going to talk about two differences. This system right here that you're seeing is a framework of something you should consider if you are a smaller business and or if you've never set one of these up before. This is more or less how these things work. Now, if you're a bigger business and you've done a few of these, then this, again, is still a good framework to fall back to. But I am going to use an example. I talk through this of a big webinar that I've personally attended from Alex Hermosi in his last book launch and everything that I learned from that going through it with operations. So I'll talk about both. Again, the system here in front of us is a good framework. I'll talk about how you can add to this if you're trying to advance things a little bit further as a bigger business. We typically help businesses anywhere from 3 million in revenue all the way up to 100 million in revenue. So if you fall anywhere in that category, if you're on the lower end towards maybe the 3 million, you might just start trying to run these versus if you're more towards 50 million already, you've probably already started running these and you're looking to figure out how to up your game. So I'll talk towards both. So what we have here is obviously a webinar. Okay. So just to make sure we're all aligned, what do we run a webinar for? A webinar is really so that we can get a bunch of interested people into a room to talk about a product or service that we sell. The FOMO that we're going to create, which is fear of missing out, is going to say, here's how you have this pain point. This is why this product or service is going to solve that pain point. And if you show up to this event, I'm going to reveal those secrets. If you want to up the ante even more, then you promise things for them showing up. So if they show up, they get this extra perk. If they show up live and they ask a question, they get this extra perk. So you want to up the ante if you already are running these. That just concretes it even more for the people to be interested and commit to showing up when they're supposed to and not treat it like it doesn't really matter if they're there or not. The hard thing I see in tech versus this Alex Hermosi event that I went to. The Alex Hermosi event that I went to does not happen often. So you know this is going to be kind of like a once a year, maybe once every few years type of situation. So it's a lot easier for someone like myself to want to commit because you know they don't come around often. The thing I see in sales when people start running this, or in tech, sorry, is when they start running this, they do these maybe once a month. And that's not a problem. But if people catch on to knowing that, hey, this is going to be the same thing that they tried to invite me to last month, and I didn't go to that one, and then they sent me all this free stuff afterwards, and they sent me the recording, you already are creating the message to them that it does not matter to show up live. And that's not what we want to create. So you want to make sure during the preparation, we're thinking through how we target people, who we're going to talk to, how we talk to them, and we record who showed up, who didn't show up, so we can make sure that we keep those messages separate. That's really the point of this, okay? So your webinar, that's what we have. You create one. And from there, the very first thing I would suggest is differentiating between the people you want to show up versus the people that are not going to show up. And there is a difference here. Sometimes you have leads that just don't fit your ideal client, or they're further along in the sales cycle with somebody already, or they've already attended this webinar and you don't want to target them for this specific one. So we do want to differentiate that list so that when we can say, here's the group of people that we do want to start targeting, these emails and messages go to the right folks versus blasting people that don't even want to be there or shouldn't show up or have shown up in the past. You're going to create a negative experience by doing that. That's why we're going to differentiate. Once you know those people, you then want to send out some type of email invite. I would suggest sending this out a few days before, a week before, a month before. In our examples here, if you're running these once a month, it's probably not crazy to have to give such a far in advance notice. Probably don't need to do something 30 days in advance. I typically see people do something maybe a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, if they're doing these every month pretty frequently. Now, if it's an Alex Hormozy event, or it's a bigger event, or it's something that you're doing on a larger scale, in my experience going through the Alex Hormozy event, this was 3 months advance. And then when we got into the actual week, the month of, I got blasted with a ton of notifications to remind me that this thing was happening. So you really can up it if this is more infrequent, and or it's a bigger deal, and or you have it dialed in with the amount of people that are going to be going. So that's what I would think through first, is how often do we want to send this, and how many days in advance do we need to let them know? Again, if it's smaller scale, you're doing this once a month, maybe just a week in advance, a couple weeks in advance is good. Send them that first email. The first email is going to read something like an introduction. Here's why you need to be there. Remember, the key here is FOMO, what we're going to get out of this, why you should attend. Sometimes I see people, they'll go in with the attitude of, they're almost like paying you the favor, when this is reverse. You're trying to get business from them. So you want to create a bunch of value and tell them all the things that they're going to get by showing up to this thing for you. And again, creating 30 minutes, even an hour out of their time, a weekend or a weekday, that's a lot to ask of somebody. So you really want to make sure that you're delivering double that value, triple that value, is much more value than what they're going to be putting in, which is their time, which a lot of people are going to view as quite a big ask. So that's what we want to think through. Send this out. And then from here, we branch this into two different things. There's going to be the folks that did not click and say they're going to show up. And then there's going to be the people that did say they are going to show up. Two different email messages that need to go out. Some are going to be more like reminders and probably walking them through their pain points to convince them why this is a good deal, versus the people that already said they're going to go. We're going to probably start getting more into the perks of being there and how this is going to help them and how they can interact with us and how they can make sure they show up on time and get all their codes. That's more the messaging that you'll have for the people that have said they're going to go. So the one over here is pretty easy. I can kind of breeze through. This one over here on the left is just basically saying, if they do not click and say they're going to go, we're going to send out, in this example, 4 other emails asking them to show up. In these 4 different emails, we're going to be talking about their pain point, probably trying to make them more problem aware, understanding that, hey, this webinar that we're going to be holding is really going to help you get through this next part of your business with the tool we offer or the service we offer, and here's why you should do this. If they do finally click and say, yes, I'm going to go, this one is where we're going to really start to create, again, that hype for the actual webinar. So over here, we have the updating of the contact. So we want to separate this again and say, this person did say they're going to attend. We know that they're going to be there. Now, how many days is it before the actual webinar that we need to make sure we send them the login info and that they're good to go? So if this is 7 days, 3 days, 10 days, whatever you feel is best in your business, this is when we want to send that out. Okay. And then what we want to have is a 1 hour till the webinar. So another final reminder, hey, we're kicking off in an hour. See you there. And then again, send that reminder along with the credentials to get in, whether that's like a Zoom code or the link if it's going to be held somewhere else. And then after that, we want to have a 1 hour post-mortem or post-webinar type of flow that you want to take care of as well. So within here, you're going to have people that attended and didn't attend. If they never responded to you and they just didn't attend, again, we want to create that FOMO for them, tell them what they missed out on, send them some type of summary of saying this is what we talked about, and update them to a no-show as well as stamp a no-show date. This is when we invited them. This is when they were supposed to be there. Stamp the date to let us know this is when they did not show up to this webinar. We want that so that when we look at reports, we know who we invited and we know who showed up and who didn't. And it serves as a reminder too, when we go to re-invite these people, how many times have they done this? Also, is this too recent to try to retarget them? If we're going to run another one in a couple weeks from now, maybe we take a break and we don't. Or maybe it's the reverse psychology of that. Maybe it is, hey, because we just invited them to one 2 weeks ago, it's probably still good to send them another one and try to get them on board. You're going to know your customer better, but the point is that's going to be helpful for us to make decisions with. That's why we want to gather that. If the answer is yes, they did attend. Now in here, you might have offered some different resources like a guide to download, an ebook. Maybe there's a call that you're willing to get on, something that you're offering if they went and they showed up. So you want to send a thank you for showing up, the resources you promised, update this person to attended, and stamp the date of when they attended. Same reason for reporting for the business, so we can make decisions on here's the people that did show up. Here's how we're going to hand it off to the sales team so that they know what to talk about. These two people are going to be different of how the sales team talks to them after this handoff. So this is another reason we want to gather that data. If they didn't show up, we're going to talk about, again, probably problem awareness. If they did show up, we want to reinforce why it was awesome and reinforce on the emotions that they felt during the call of how this is going to solve their problems when we get on with the sales team. So there is a difference there, okay? Now, what I would say here for the bigger businesses, this is, again, the framework that I just went through for maybe somebody just starting out. Now, the bigger businesses, in my Alex Hermosi experience here, is this was like 3 months in advance. I was notified. I was blasted with tons and tons of notifications. And what they did was offer a bunch of perks if I do show up live, and only if I show up live. He does a really good job of holding the line of, this is what I'm offering, and if you don't show up, I never offer this again. This is a one-time thing. And it really creates that, and obviously if you hold to it, it creates that idea that, hey, what he says actually is what he says. So if I don't show up, I don't get this thing. And it creates a lot more, I would say, FOMO for the person going, like myself, and a commitment to go, because you know you're going to miss out for real if you don't show up. Sometimes people say that and then they still send it out afterwards, which kind of defeats the purpose. So if you're in that boat, I got an email, like I said, 3 months in advance. The month of, I started getting a bunch of them. And then even the day of, I felt like there was like we're going live in 24 hours. We're going live in 12 hours. We're going live in 6 hours. Hey, we went live 10 minutes early. Jump on. Hey, we're officially live. Hey, we've been live for 30 minutes. Jump on. Hey, we've been live for an hour. Jump on. So they sent a bunch to try to get people in. And then once people were in, then there was all this upselling that they do on the call. So then it was, hey, if you joined, great, you get all these perks like we promised. And here's some extra stuff that we're also selling to people that did join today. That is a one-time offer. And after they do that, then they say, hey, we know this is new stuff that we just offered you. You probably need some time to think about if you want to buy it. So we're going to give you a deadline of 2 days. And if you don't buy this in 2 days, the offer is off the table. So again, it creates some more FOMO, but you're going to want to have some type of branch out here that says these people opted in. Here's all the things we want to send them. These people attended. Here's everything we want to send them and remind them about, in which I got all those emails as well. So it was like, hey, thanks for showing up. Remember, here's like these 9 other things we tried to sell you during this time that is going to go away in 48 hours unless you buy it. So go here and buy it. And then again, same idea as you're thinking through that of here's all the stuff that you should buy. Here's why it's helpful. Again, a reminder, hey, this is going to go away in a day. Hey, this is going to go away in an hour. Hey, this is going away now. You have 10 minutes left. They sent a bunch of that stuff too to capitalize on all those upsells as well. So that's how I would think through this, whether you're big or small. If you're bigger, more perks, more commitments, more flows afterwards of how we're going to continue to push the product or service or re-engage with people. If this is something you're barely setting up, this is a pretty good framework to think through and just have something going and test. Really, the point of these systems is to test and learn and figure out what works best for your business, because what works for yours versus mine is going to be different. So setting up something and at least going for it and trying it out, you're going to learn a lot more on what we should adjust versus us debating right now before we even do anything, whether we should do X or Y. We should probably just set up the framework, run it, see how people react, see what we can change from there. So again, I would fall back to that if you're just in the mode of wanting to start this, or you're just barely starting these versus trying to make it super complex. And then if it doesn't work, the hard part is that when you make it super complex, it's hard to know what to change because there's so many things you could change. Was it the messaging? Was it the perks I offered? Was it, there's too many things to think through that makes it hard to actually adjust it correctly. So that's how I would go and do this. Now, like I said, this is a big thing to do. I would totally understand if you don't want to do this yourself, which is the reason I put a link in the description below. We can see if we're a good fit for you guys as far as consultants go. If we are, and our business works well with your business, then we can come in, we can talk through how you're trying to set this up, and we can do it for you. We've done plenty of these before, so it makes it nice to have somebody on your team that knows their way around this and not get overwhelmed by all the things that you may or may not have to do. So if that sounds great to you, you're interested, click the link below, and then I look forward to speaking to you guys shortly. Thank you.